Ladies and gentlemen, Zinzan Brookes! Thank you, Zinzan.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Now, let's start off with the Lions, shall we? Quite simply, how do you feel New Zealand played last week? Did the score reflect the skill of the team at the moment? And more importantly, do you think it'll be the same this weekend?
First and foremost, look, it's lovely to be back here. Sale Rugby Club. I've came here when I was with the Harlequins, so obviously that's quite a few years ago. But I've been to Manchester on a few occasions to come and see Dano. But yeah, look, it's great to be back. Right, the question about how the All Blacks can improve, is that right?
How they thought they played? Did the score reflect? Is it what you expected?
Well, I thought the All Blacks. I don't think they played that well. I think there's.
Ladies and gentlemen, Zinzan Brookes, now fuck off.
I think there's room to improve. No, look. In fairness, look, I've coming into this first test. I actually felt, because I know obviously a lot of the guys within the British and Irish Lions team, I felt that the test match was the lead-up games, the 6 games that they had. There were a couple of speed bumps, but there was some positivity actually how the Lions actually played, certainly against the Canterbury Crusaders, because that was going to be, everyone sort of framed that as the fourth test, because the Canterbury Crusaders were unbeaten and they were 14 on the bounce. What better you do is you play against the British and Irish Lions and actually really test yourself out internationally. But I felt the British and Irish Lions were fantastic. They strangled and choked the Crusaders, and coming into that there needed to be an element of getting what everyone was phrasing it, getting the tour back on track. So I thought they did bloody well. And the games that they lost, they only lost it by small margins. So you're coming into the first test match, I sort of felt there was an element of confidence, but there's no substitution from domestic rugby to international. You know, when you play, for the Quins and Sale, when Sale were actually at the prime in the Premiership, you actually have to step outside the comfort zone of actually playing to the high level, and you saw that in abundance. And I would say in about the first 25 to 30 minute mark, I went, bloody hell. I was in Dubai. I was with Jerry Guscott and Scott Gibbs, and we were all saying after 20 minutes, we went, bloody hell, who's going to survive after 80 minutes at the way that they were actually playing. So I thought the game in itself was fantastic, but I just felt that the All Blacks had just had a little bit of a step up. In fairness to them here, and not being disrespectful I won't be, because the fact is, what happened is that the Lions created enough opportunities to win the game, but they just didn't finish them off. And that's the nuts and bolts of it, really. The All Blacks had 4 or 5 chances, and we converted 4. The Lions had 4 or 5 chances, they converted 2 or 3, probably 2, really. But that's the way it is. That's the way it is. So for the first test match, there's a lot of positive things here. Last night or yesterday morning, they played against the Wellington Hurricanes. The Wellington Hurricanes were pretty much in the back line. They were fully loaded. You had Julian Sevilla. You had Milner Scudder, who was in the World Cup final. He played in 2015. So there was a lot of ammunition that the Hurricanes could actually throw at the British and Irish Lions. But I would say, if you want to put your hand up and say, right, think about me for the selection for the second test, is that when you're 31-17 up and you got the foot on the throat, you just choke a team. You make sure you kill it off. And within that 14 minutes of that remaining of that game yesterday, they allowed the Hurricanes to creep in, score 2 converted tries right under the sticks, and that's the difference. And then some of the guys, there were a few guys that put their hands up, but that list would have been reduced now because of the fact that they allowed a 31. Just think of it as in a test match. If you think like the British Lions, right, there's 14 minutes to go, and you're 31-17 up, no way you actually, and that's the way you've got the mindset. I know it's a midweek game, but it's against a team that they were the Super 18 champions last year, so they were the champions. So you need to make sure that you actually close the games out. Yes, I think the British and Irish Lions, they're a good side, they're a fantastic side, but the All Blacks on home soil, Eden Park, unbeaten for, I can't remember, it was like 20, I think it's 20 years or something like that, but it's a long time, so it was fantastic. But look, for the purists, for rugby people, I thought it was a great test match. I thought it was fantastic. Really, I really did.
Any standout players for New Zealand and standout players for Lions?
It would be hard for me to actually pull out standout players from both sides, because I think everyone, for the way that actually was played, it was absolutely convincing that everyone was here to play ball, because in the first 20 minutes it was just outrageous the way they actually what they did. But if you're gonna, I always talk about the spine. The spine for me in a team is always 2, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 15, which are your generals of actually who drives the team and makes decisions. And for me, for the All Blacks, Aaron Smith and Beauden Barrett, the 9 and 10, that combination just allowed the ability to the All Blacks to have some comfort. You know, there were question marks on Kieran Reid, whether he's actually, 6 weeks out for a little wee. I don't know whether he actually broke his finger, but I think he snapped his nail. So, but my God, I thought he was just, he was absolutely sublime, and he was just absolutely super cool. So it was brilliant. From the British and Irish Lions, look, I think there was some positivity of which we were trying to pick. I'm sure everyone here, the rugby people here in this room, you sort of pick your test team, and myself, Jerry Guscott, and Scott Gibbs, we picked our test team. So we picked our back three, and all of us we picked George North, and we picked Halfpenny as our starting. And fair play to Warren Gatland. He went against the grain of actually, you know what we do? We need to make sure that we can actually finish off moves, because I think that's one of the things that was in question, that the Lions opened up the gate from the All Blacks, but they didn't have the runners on to actually finish them off. So having Daly, Williams, and Watson, I think was fantastic. And I don't think in these 3 test matches that you'll see a test try scored like the one against the British and Irish Lions, whether it's actually on the Lions team or the All Blacks. I thought that was absolutely outstanding. So it was, for me, the outstanding players was, I thought Warren Gatland firstly has been vindicated, but Liam Williams is, I thought he was outstanding till he got injured. But for me, I felt the man I'm still scratching my head now. Jerry Guscott, Scott Gibbs was scratching their head. Is that why the hell did they take Ben Teo off? I thought he was outstanding, and it was like, Jesus, even from a Kiwi, I'm sitting there going, yeah, well done. But I thought he was outstanding. He matched Sonny Bill Williams, but he, 55 minutes, take him off. Unless, which we don't know, because we're in a situation where we're a fly on the wall scenario, is that we actually don't know, because those guys, when they're all mic'd up, you don't know whether the guy was injured or not. So we don't know that. But the question mark was, oh my God, we were sitting there, myself, Jerry Guscott, and Scott Gibbs, we all just stood up and went, what the hell why is he doing that? So, yeah, so there's lots of little question marks about for the second test match. So, look, interesting in here. But coming back to that, for Liam Williams, Ben Teo, I thought Conor Murray's. I get a bit pissed off with Gats, to be honest. I know he's a Kiwi. He used to sit on the bench with me along with the All Blacks in the days where he's got more splinters in his ass than I have. But I don't like this bitch and moaning about with Gats is talking about the fact that that we're targeting Conor Murray. Look, stop all that shit, because unfortunately that's the way. If you're it's like in football. It's like there's certain players that you always talk about. Conor Murray was always going to be one of the linchpins, because we knew that he was going to be doing his up and unders, because that was part of the game set of actually what Warren Gatland do. You know what? Let's stick a couple of bombs up in here, because they thought that Julian Severe was going to be playing. He's not great on the high ball. And so Ben Smith was good enough with Israel Dagg. So I was a little bit disappointed that he's sort of bitching and moaning. You can bitch and moan when you actually win the game and you get and you don't get wiped off the park. When you get wiped off the park, you got to hush hush. You starting to cry wolf. After the game about Connor Murray. It was the same thing for Bowden Barrett, Aaron Smith. They are key guys. Sonny Bill was a key guy. Because it was always going to be in close. So we have to, I think it just puts another. Is he trying to take the focus away on some of his players like Connor Murray? But Connor Murray was always going to be one of the 5 key players, which I talk about the spine of the team. The spine of the team was always are the drivers of the play. And unfortunately, there was a couple of pushovers, but it was a little bit handbag. I thought Brodie Retallick pushed Connor Murray, but it wasn't a tackle. He didn't finish it. He just pushed him over. So
well,
it was
interesting.
part of the
In the Sunday Telegraph and the Sunday Times this weekend, there was quite a lot of debate on whether the All Blacks were playing too rough, or is it just the lines are too soft?
Well, I'll go with the latter on that. Look. It's a physical game. It's a physical game. You want the confrontation, but look, the All Blacks have got a proud record, and that's part of the tradition of what my time that I played with. When I first went into the All Blacks when I was 21 years old, I was absolutely shitting myself. I was involved in I made my debut against Argentina in the '87 Rugby World Cup, and I never played open side flanker before. I played blind side, number 8, inside centre, fly half and fullback. But I'd never played open side flanker. So the guy who should have been playing, but because it was on a Sunday, was like Michael Jones. So I played, and when the coach said to me, what you need to do, and I just nodded my head and just said, yeah, I know what I need to do, but. That thing's changed now because of the interaction with coaches now about understanding players. So it's more about pressing, making sure that you get the best out of the players. So, no, I don't think the All Blacks. It's a rough and tumble game, but what I don't want to do, there's a couple of times where you'll see a ruck situation. The ruck's down here, and you get those couple of lazy runners. Sean Fitzpatrick was absolutely famous for it. When he puts his hands up, look, I'm innocent, and then but the guys now, the halfbacks now, are wise to that. And when you get a lazy runner, they throw the ball into the guy who's standing, milk a penalty. So that does happen. But look, I'm not saying that the British and Irish Lions are a bunch of softies, because they're not. It was just the way the All Blacks play an aggressive home soil. It's an advantage here, and the All Blacks supporters, the people that actually watch the game, they demand excellence, and that's what the All Blacks and that's what the All Blacks want to do, because of the heritage of the guys that have done before. Because that's exactly what I was when I was 21 years old, and I was taken over, from a guy called, it was Jock Hobbs and Graham Murray were open side flankers, and I was packing myself just to make sure that I did what was laid down before. I need to make sure that I actually either had to be as good or raise the crossbar. That's the difference.
I've got lots of questions prepared. What have you got, Eddie? Is anybody got anything you want to ask Zinzan? If you just put your hand up, I'll come across the microphone so everybody else can hear what you're asking.
Zinzan, we always believe that Martin Johnson was one of the best players that ever played. You played against him. How good was he?
Martin Johnson, was he one of the best players? Yeah, absolutely. I think he was an absolute stalwart for English rugby. They became the invincible team actually at Twickenham for I think 5 to 6 years. So yeah, they were a very good side, and they thoroughly deserved the 2003 Rugby World Cup. So it was just absolutely huge. The good thing for Jono is that Jono went down to New Zealand. He played in King Country for a couple of seasons, and played for King Country. I remember he actually marked my brother. Actually marked both my brothers, because I had 2 other brothers in the Auckland team, Martin and Robin, and he actually had Jono in the midweek, and then he actually marked my brother, Robin, my younger brother, in the Test matches. So but he's 2 years in New Zealand, and he learned a little bit of craft, helped him to develop as a rugby player. So yeah, look, very good a leader of men. And that 2003, before and after, the 2 years before that, 2 years after, were absolutely phenomenal. So, yeah, it was a great time for English rugby, and deserved.
Anybody else got a question? Or shall I rattle on with mine? Paul.
If you had a budding number 8 in the audience, not in particular a ginger head, one with a massive head sat in the corner over there, what advice would you give him if he was looking at a career in like rugby in the future?
What career? A future in rugby. Look, like for me, I say, I was having a chat to my table today about, I'm actually one of the head coaches in under 15s. I coach kids about making sure that that all the right processes of a young individual that wants to seek playing for his international. So one of the things is making sure that you actually enjoy it, making sure that your parents understand what the commitment is, and it's a massive commitment. I grew up. The amount of people in this room is the amount of people that I actually grew up in the little village when I first started. So it was a certain situation. The school I went to was there were 22 kids, and 6 of them were Brookes. Yeah, so five boys and a girl. So there's only 2 classrooms, and basically we're all farmers, and it was part and parcel of actually. There was schoolwork and there was rugby on a Saturday. And as soon as the Saturday and the weekend was over and the Monday morning going to school, all I was thinking about was Saturday. So it was a great part of it. So look, one of the things of actually encouraging young guys, you just got to make sure you got to do the work and the time. Nothing's for free. And if you want to be the best, you've got to practice the skills and the drills. And it's a big commitment. If there's one thing that I can, if you want to be a little bit different, get involved and get involved and play touch, but make sure that you understand. Like, I know that's a little bit of a Mickey take when I was doing my skill sets on that there, but that's what I used to do all the time. It's like catch and pass. And my dad was, as we were farmers, we grew up on a 3,500 acre farm, but we had 4,000 sheep and about 800 head of cattle. So we had very busy lives, but it was part and parcel of growing up in a rural family. I think actually put me in a good position to actually make sure that I was.
Are sheep good in the scrum?
We never fondled any of the sheep. All those got exported.
Do you know what Welsh people think 5 sheep in a field is?
Yeah, a party?
A leisure centre.
A leisure centre, yeah. Any Welsh people here? Any Welsh people? No, not you. No. No, look, just enjoy the game. You got to enjoy it. It's great fun. It's a good crack. I've had a look. Would I actually change it? No, absolutely not. The journey that I had through I feel a little bit sorry for these guys actually today, because these guys, I know they play more test matches than us, but when you're going on an 8-week tour with the All Blacks, or whether it was actually England, Australia, or whichever team, but coming on the Northern Hemisphere, going to South Africa was absolutely fantastic. The camaraderie that you grow up in, that partnership. These guys now, because there's 13 or 14 test matches, these guys don't have time to actually do tours. So what these guys doing? Let's use England for example. They come in, they fly into Heathrow, go to Kensington Palace, stay in the hotel. Well, they come in for a Tuesday, do a couple of days training, play the test match. Sunday morning, they fly out. So it's all quite corporate-like. The great thing was fantastic, which I can't remember. One of the guys you actually mentioned to me before about when you came up here and you played here at Sale. It's playing the midweek games and going on tour, and you meet the real spine of the people, like little clubs like this, and even further down the line.
Little clubs like this. 1865. It all started here. Don't fucking take me on.
Well, you are Division 2 at the moment, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. So,
we're practicing for next year.
I know, but that's the great thing. It's always going to be here. It's always going to be here. But what the All Black players and the Australians and the South Africans, when they tour, they don't come and see these clubs like this here. It's amazing. It's a great time to be involved, and that's the real heartbeat of the rugby.
New Zealand are currently Sevens world champions after beating England 33-0. What do you think the importance of Sevens is to the 15s game? Is there any correlation at all?
It is Sevens is the differentials between the two. They are the same sport, but they're actually different identity in terms of player size and what they actually do. Yes, you can learn skill sets of Sevens. The aerobic fitness of bringing Sevens to 15s would be good, would be beneficial for the player. But the time scale, 14, 7 minutes each way, 14 minutes, 15 minutes in the end of playing. So, look, I think it is the skill sets of that there is vitally important. So, I think it's fantastic. It's similar to like the cricket when you get the 20 overs and the 1 dayers, and I sort of think here, I think it's going to be. I think, well, I don't want to put the old curse on it, but I don't think people have got time, because that's why you say, like the time for the test matches, like 5 days. Look, I love it but I also love 1 dayers and I love 2020s because it's all packaged in 5 days and 40 overs. And for me is like when you see, you get guys that bash and take the mickey and whacking pace bowlers out, but you see it all in 40 overs. So the Sevens is very similar. It's very similar to that there. You see it in about 14 minutes. You think the skill sets. Yes, you do learn the skill sets. Yes, you can take those to transform those into 15s. But I think that's a window that'll progress, and I think it's definitely a beneficial for a lot of young players to elevate them to the 15 side.
Anybody else thought of a question yet, or shall I carry on? Oh, Anne. Birthday girl.
Wait.
Hooray!
What's your biggest high and your biggest low when you've played rugby?
Nice question. Biggest high. My biggest high would be, there's a couple of them, but I've got to say,
Today?
Yeah. Biggest high was obviously naming in the first All Black side in 1987. That was a massive, and then playing your first game, getting your jersey the night before, and the fact that I didn't play number 8 that particular day. I played number 7, so having my test jersey presented to me as a debutante was a massive honour. Massive honour was for me playing with my 3 brothers against the British and Irish Lions in 1993, and having my mum and dad sitting in the stand watching us when we were singing the national anthems was a massive high. And there was an element of, I actually was dropping a tear, truthfully, to because it was quite emotional. I saw my mum and dad there. It was like you could touch them. We played in the old athletic park, and so we played the Lions. We were up 26-6 at half time, and we lost 36-29, I think it was. So look, the result was crushing, but the fact is that I'm playing with my 3 brothers against the British and Irish Lions, and it's a highlight for New Zealanders playing against the Lions. The next best team, other than the All Blacks, is the British and Irish Lions. I don't care what anyone says that, it's even above England, South Africa, Australia. For me, it's the British and Irish Lions, and playing against them with your 2 brothers, having your mum and dad in the crowd was a massive honour. The saddest moment for me was in the 95 Rugby World Cup final. Yes, I know politically, it worked for South Africa and all the rest of it, but we were gutted that that I was involved in that team, and we lost the game. We lost in extra time, 15-12. So that was gut wrenching. And the last thing was my last game for the All Blacks, which just happened to be my 100th game for the All Blacks at Twickenham, the home of rugby, which we played against England. And we drew. We drew 26 all, which I shouldn't be stamping my feet, but because we were 23-3 down at half time. And we came back 26 all. I think it was 26 all. We should. There's no way England should have just wiped us off the park, but they didn't. They just allowed us back in. So you don't ever want to lose your last game because there's, it's just one of those sort of things. But that was the sad moments. But look, for me, my career, for me, just wearing the black jersey and playing for the All Blacks 100 times is just a massive honour. And I commend the guys that actually play now. It's fabulous, but it's brilliant. Thanks.
Wonderful. How different is the game now from when you were in your heyday? And is it better?
Yeah. Well, look, I think the rules. Still have a concern about the. I love the good old days when a bit of argy-bargy and how's your father when you get into a scrum. They've actually sort of addressed the rules of crouch, touch, set, and the whole process of making sure that the referee controls the scrum. But actually, at the moment of impact here, I still feel there's still a little bit of debate as to how many scrums actually collapse. And then on the flip side to the scrums when they do hold it up and you have a scrum that's a little bit more stronger, which I would like to think that they actually would encourage these teams, which some of the referees are doing, but some of the referees are not. And I think it's more referees that are not encouraging to actually get the ball out of the back of the scrum. Because at the end of the day, we don't want 4 or 5 scrums to set off. I was there. It was the debacle about 3 or 4 years ago, which was the England game against Wales at the Millennium Stadium. Oh, goodness me! It was a bit of a joke. So, in terms of that, they'll have a little of the concern of the scrum, but I think the zero tolerance on the high tackle, and I think it's pretty black and white where the guys anything that shoulder and above swinging arms is just not tolerated, and I think that's the right thing to actually make sure that that the players and the well-being of the individuals is actually looked after. So I think the zero tolerance on that there is fantastic. What are the other the rules? The contact area, the high ball. The high ball is like, it's one of those things. I don't know why. When it's sometimes when you're getting 2 guys going in the air, there's always it's always. Sometimes they do get it right, but sometimes when a player is so late, why would you not? When the guy, if you're not going to go up, if you're a little bit like we're talking like minuscule seconds of just making a judgment call. When the guy gets up, if he goes up like a second earlier, just let him catch the ball, grab hold of him, and then flip him back on your side. So I struggle to the idea of actually allowing guys to go 50-50, because we had Liam Williams, I think a couple of weeks ago in the game, I think it was against the Auckland Blues, that he went up, contested, got a warning, next time you do it, what he does. 3 minutes later was actually even worse than the first one, and he actually got yellow carded. You just can't afford to that there, because of a player of his calibre, you can't actually have off the field. So I sort of think that the ability for players to make sure that they wait. So the rules, I think, are actually they're better. The lineouts are fantastic. The scrums, it's work in progress. But the high tackle, zero tolerance, I think is the right thing at this stage.
Thank you. Dom, you've got a question.
Hi, thanks for today.
Thank you, Dom.
Coming back to Manchester. Physicality, over the last 10 years, to me as a layman watching the game, and not played it since I was a schoolboy, and there's all this paper talk about head injuries and taking them off, checking their okay.
Concussion testing.
Do you feel there's been a great change? The physicality has been more in the last 10 years? Because players do seem to be more bulked up, bigger, stronger, more professional, training all the time. What do you think on the health side?
I like the fact that you're getting players that get knocked to head and they do the evaluation test, the concussion evaluation, and it is making sure that you look after the well-being of the individual. But I think I'll give it a little bit of a, what I sort of find a comparable is that you sort of think like in rugby league, it's just full on, you know, every tackle's, you know, it's fiercely competitive, and I don't see a lot of those guys getting into that sort of situation. I sort of feel from the rugby aspects is that in our days that I was playing is that there were always 3 or 4 or 5 guys that were able to tackle like bone crunching. Now you're seeing a lot of guys, you know, gone are the days where you sort of think, you know, props. I think if you actually go back in the 60s and the 70s and potentially even the 80s, if you could actually look at props doing tackles of count of 8, 9 or 10, you're thinking about like double figures. I just think that would be unheard of. Props in those days just didn't tackle. You know, they weren't even allowed to touch the ball. You're in the scrum, that's all you do. So I think the role of that there, the role of all players, and I like the whole the physical specimen of props locks, and you're having a wide range. When you see a guy like who's 6'10", Brodie Retallick, for the All Blacks, you know, he's just like an absolute praying mantis, and he's just all arms and legs, and it's just phenomenal at 120 kilos, and he looks like a bit of a beanpole. You could snap his legs, but he's just absolutely outstanding. You know, not only does he do his job in the lineouts, not only does he do his job in the locks, not only does he do his job in the breakdown, he actually is one of the biggest carriers in the All Blacks. You know, he's verging on like Sonny Bill is a big carrier of the ball. Kieran Reid is a big, and then your next guy is Brodie Retallick. Those sort of numbers didn't happen. So yes, I think the physicality of players are better today, but it's actually the demand on players that have been put onto it. You can't just be a prop. You can't just be a lock. You have to have 2 or 3 things in your locker. And when, you know, like for me, I used to practice kicking all the time. And you never know when you're going to use it. I just happened to use it in the semi-final against England in the World Cup.
All right, we know.
So
we know about that one.
Yeah.
Just finish the story, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so the drop goal was amazing. Anyway.
You mentioned rugby league then, and round here, of course, we've got Warrington, Widnes, St Helens, even Swinton sharing the ground with us here. Were you ever tempted to change codes like Jason Robinson and Jonathan Davis?
Believe it or not, yeah, I did. Yeah, I was 18-year-old. I actually rang Graham Lowe because I used to love watching Wigan play in the heydays in that team of the 80s. You know, when you had Martin Afire, Ellery Hanley, Sean Edwards, and Betsy, and I can't remember all the other guys, but it was just an amazing.
That's your age.
Yeah. Well, I was 18, but it was phenomenal. I rang Graham Lowe as a 19-year-old and asked him, and I said I'd pay for a flight to come over and see if I could trial for Wigan. And he says, "Oh, look, you know, who do you play for?" And I said, "Well, I just play for a little Maris club, and you know, I'm playing in under 21s." So and he just said, "Well, look, I'll keep an eye on you, and I'll spot you, and I'll have a look." So that was in 1986, and then 12 months later, I was in the World Cup. So I was played for the New Zealand Colts, and then got named in the New Zealand in the All Blacks. And then a couple of years later, when he moved to Manly Sea Eagles, and he gave me a call in 1980.
You told him about comedy.
Yeah, 1980. Yeah, too late. Yeah, 1989, 90, and I did a deal, and I actually signed the contract to play for Manly Sea Eagles, and I never went myself, and it was actually 2 players, myself and Matthew Ridge, who was the fullback for the All Blacks in 1989, and we were going to leave in 1990 before the 91 World Cup. So I did sign the contract, but I never actually exercised the contract.
More of the story, never signed a contract with Zinny. Lads, you two going on tour. You need a question, so start thinking. Paul.
Oh yeah, Zinny, question for you. Obviously a very talented All Black, grilled, trained by your coaches. How different was it when you played for the Barbarians? Was it the same sort of discipline that was indoctrinated into you, or was it just like playing for the All Blacks yet again?
Playing for the Barbarians. Yeah, well, actually, I've been on both sides of that, playing for the Barbarians, and I was actually on the board of the British Barbars for a couple of years. But no, it was quite relaxed. It was actually quite an honour to actually play for the British Barbarians. The fact is that you're sort of measuring, and there's always like it's probably. Well, I can, because it's a bit of a novelty. There's always one guy who's not an international playing for the Barbars. You get 14 guys, fantastic. You get a guy that plays for a club, which I think is just an amazing sort of thing that you play on the. And I've played on a few of the big grounds, and it's a fantastic. And you want to make sure that you actually do your country and the Barbarians a reputation of what it is. What it is about. It's about making sure that you enjoy the occasion. And I think the Barbarians is about look, you know what you need to do, just execute and just have a bit of fun. You throw some risk balls, but we've seen in the past, I think it was back in the 60s or 70s with Gareth Edwards when they scored that wonderful try at Millennium Stadium against the All Blacks, who were at the top of the tree. So yeah, it's quite relaxed, and I loved being involved in the Barbarians. So what you don't want to do is there's a bit of pressure when you're playing against, it's even worse than the British and Irish Lions, because you're reaching out to a lot of other different countries, but you don't know the capabilities of what he's good at and what he's bad at. But a lot of the times I couldn't remember because of how much alcohol we were drinking. before the game, we'd meet up on a Tuesday, and we'd sort of have a first training, play a bit of touch, and then we'd go to the bar, and the bar was started about 7 o'clock, and then we'd there till about 11 o'clock. Yeah. It's very, very similar to that there. But look, that was just part and parcel. It was the enjoyment. It was quite relaxed. We were raising funds. It was charity. It was your space that you shared a sort of a relaxed moment with a lot of these world players, and it's good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So yeah, representing the Barbars was just it was a great honour.
Two-part question. I'm slightly confused because the wonderful Maori greeting that happens before the kickoff in all your games, the haka.
The haka, yeah.
As it's known. This time there's been about 6 or 7 different versions of the haka.
Yeah.
And also yesterday they didn't have one at all. What's obviously, the second part of the question is you're going to show us how to do it. But the first part, how has it evolved that it seems to change with every game on this particular tour? And
Okay.
Why didn't they do it yesterday?
Okay. Well, the simple answer to that there is that why there's a different haka, it's because there's a different tribe. It's like Manchester and the Harlequins, because it's a different province. That's Berkshire versus up here and the different counties. So there's different beliefs and different ways of methods of. I'd say the Manchester team would do the haka, and I'd say the Quins would do the Morris dance. So that's the differentials between that there. But it's purely I was from the far north. I'm from Whangarei, so from Auckland up, we're called my tribe is Ngāpuhi, and Ngāpuhi was the strongest of the tribes.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the way it was, and so there was a difference. And yeah,
What age did you learn it, the haka? Is it
I
something you
did-
do from childhood?
Yeah, no, I did my first haka when I was about 6. Part of the cultural thing that you have. 6 years old, I did my first haka at primary school. My 24 kids at the school, and we learnt the haka. So there was a lady, a Māori, because predominantly the girls don't do the haka. They do a call which is called a pōwhiri, which is when they sort of dance with their hands, and that's what they do. It's the men, that the warriors, when you go before battle, they do the haka, and you actually make sure that you're pumped and ready to go, and obviously before war, and you do that. So it was my school teacher, Mrs. I'm trying to remember her name, Mrs. I can't remember her name, primary school teacher, but yeah, she was. yeah, she taught us. She was a Māori lady, and she taught the hara. So yeah, look, you don't. When you're a young kid, you don't get it right. You know, you get the timing wrong. But when I was about 10 or 12 years old, I knew how to do the haka properly. So yeah, it was a great part.
Well, just before you take your jacket off and show us a bit, just to
No.
round it off, a couple of questions.
Yeah.
What's your golf handicap?
My golf handicap? +2. I want six. Yeah, I know. No, I'm a 7. I'm a genuine 7 handicap. Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, 7 handicap. But on this occasion, I'll probably play off scratch for these guys, just to help them out.
Zinzan's future. Would you coach if you're asked again? Do you fancy that?
Would I coach? Yeah, I would like to get involved. I'd like to specifically look after. I was going to chat to the young boys on the table about. I would like to sort of dedicate my time about like the line-out area and the scrums and the moves off it. I just love defence. You know, the whole thing about making sure that you shut a team down and make them squeal. So yeah, I'd like to get involved. I'd like to get involved in rugby, but I'm quite busy. I feel like a taxi driver. As my wife and I, we've got 6 kids, and so we're quite.
Do you know what's causing it?
Yeah, we've bought a TV now and stuck it on the ceiling. Yeah, so I've got.
When's the 7th due?
Yeah. No, I've got 2 boys, a 15 and a 13-year-old, and then I've got 4 girls that are 11, 9, 7, and 5.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Get in there.
You just move your retirement age to 163.
Yeah, no, don't fire any blanks.
So listen, just to end it all, you don't need to do it, but will you take us through the haka and explain what it means, the actual words of it, and
Well, I don't know the actual meanings, but I know the actions of.
Jesus, you've been doing it since you were 6.
Well, at 6 you don't ask. You don't ask about what it. You don't ask that. So and I've never then actually gone and asked what it actually means. But I know the ritual. I know the understanding of what it actually means.
Take us through a couple of lines of it, and then just with full aggression.
Well,
Will Carling's opposite you.
Yeah. Well, when you actually see the guys, they go into the spearhead approach, and you have your leader. No, because I would prefer not to because I sort of feel because I'm a Māori myself, it's because it's not like a bit of a showpiece, and I think it's yeah.
But tell us a couple of lines.
I can definitely tell you the whole meaning. So when you see Kieran Reid at the front, the technical aspect of that there, that he's spearheading that there, he shouldn't be at the front because he's your leader. The leader should be in the back because the warriors always die first before the leader because if they need to reroute and redirect themselves, it's only the leader that it's actually going to take them forward to actually go right. Let's pull out. But if you actually kill because you don't know the mindset of the guys, the warriors that are about to give their life. So when they and then you see TJ Perenara. It wasn't Aaron Smith. It was TJ Perenara, the little number 9. Basically, he's asking. This is this moment. This is this time. We need to get ourselves together, and what we want to do is collectively show you the power and the strength of us as a group of men. And that's why it's quite coordinated of making sure that you show strength and mana. Mana in Māori is strength and power. So you show your you want to make sure that if you're gonna hang it out and die for the cause, you need to make sure that you're mentally and physically in the right position. So when TJ Perenara, he starts walking, he was doing, he could be going, tēnā koutou, te kia ora, ka mai te, ka mai te, and he always just sit and walk. And he's just getting the guys to say, right, this is that moment, you've got to get yourself in that position. And then he goes, kia amo, and he said, right, and kia amo means, right, let's go. And then that's that final, what they do, and as you was touching on before about the variations, whether they actually go. I think they did the kapawanga, which is the dance that they did, and that's they would have, and how they actually do that as a group. It'll be the senior group that actually get them and said, right, we were going to do this, and this will be in light of probably where they were, like Auckland, and when they move down the country, they'll respect the other provinces, which has another, like I was talking about before about, Manchester and down in Berkshire, so they would adopt that. That's why you see variations of the haka. So, and then when you get to a group, and then you do, and then you respect the opposition. And one of the things that you'll see a lot of the players is that when they come down, is one of the things that you don't do is when you come down, you just turn around like this. The idea is that to make sure when you actually face the opposition is just to walk back and make sure that you're out of distance and respect, because you don't know, because I know the whistle hasn't kicked off, but when you're fighting in war, so you just the respect that you walk back, turning, and some cultures it actually does happen. If you actually just shake your hands and you just turn around like that there, it's like, which is what I learnt in Italy. I lived in Italy for 2 years, and when you're holding a wine glass, we're sitting at the table like this here, it's really rude and disrespectful that you're sitting here like this in a wine glass and you have a bottle of wine and you do that out of your back of your hand. And when I did that in Italy, I got the bottle smacked out of my hand. And I was going, bloody hell, what the hell was that? He said, Zinzan, no, you cannot do that, because it's very disrespectful, because you sort of feel like you're not including that person. So what you've got to do is actually either turn around and do that hand to, you're inviting that person to be respectful for that there. Doing that there is like, you're not that important, so you're just dropping it out like that there. So that's a similar situation for like doing the haka. When you do the haka and you do that, you just don't do that. And you'll see, that's why you see the guys in the haka, what you'll do, they'll always do a couple of steps here and then they'll walk away. And then game on. That's how it is.
When he handed me that glass then, I knew I was safe because it was his beer. Thank you, Zinzan, for making the effort to come, and you have been absolutely fantastic. Please show your appreciation, Zinzan. Showing an insight into the game, the past, the present, the Lions,